The late afternoon sun filtered through the blinds of Ethan Cole's cramped Boston apartment, casting striped shadows across the hardwood floor. The studio was a cozy mess, textbooks piled on a second-hand coffee table, a guitar leaning against the wall, and a sink full of dishes that Ethan, 24, had promised himself he'd tackle later. He stood in front of his open closet, heart pounding, holding a black pleated skirt that didn't belong to him. It was Isabella's, left behind after she'd crashed at his place last weekend following a late-night study session. The skirt was simple yet elegant, its fabric soft and slightly stretchy, and Ethan couldn't stop staring at it. He'd never considered crossdressing before, not out of passion or necessity, but something about the skirt, about Isabella, had sparked a curiosity he couldn't shake. Ethan was a graduate student at Boston University, studying environmental science with dreams of working on climate policy. By day, he was the laid-back guy in flannel shirts and sneakers, always ready with a quick joke or a helping hand in the lab. Beneath the easygoing exterior was a restless uncertainty, a feeling he was playing a role to fit in. Growing up in a working-class suburb of Philadelphia, Ethan had been taught to man up by a single father, a gruff electrician who equated sensitivity with weakness. His mother had left when he was young, leaving Ethan to navigate his emotions alone. He'd always felt different, too introspective for the jocks he grew up with, too afraid to explore what that difference meant. The skirt in his hands felt like a forbidden key, unlocking a door he'd never dared to open. The apartment was his sanctuary, a small space in a bustling city where he could be himself, or at least try to figure out who that was. The walls were decorated with posters of national parks and a few of his own sketches, pencil drawings of forests and coastlines that revealed a softer side he rarely showed. His closet was mostly practical, jeans, t-shirts, a single suit for presentations, but now, Isabella's skirt hung among his clothes like an intruder, daring him to act. He'd found it while tidying up, tucked in a laundry basket, and instead of texting her to return it, he'd held onto it, his curiosity growing with each passing day. Isabella was his crush, not his girlfriend, though the line between friendship and something more had been blurring for months. She was a fellow grad student, studying urban planning, with a sharp mind and a laugh that made Ethan's heart skip. They'd met in a seminar last semester, bonding over late-night coffee runs and shared rants about Boston's traffic. Isabella was confident, with dark curls and hazel eyes that seemed to see right through him. Ethan had been working up the courage to confess his feelings, but the fear of rejection kept him silent. She was open-minded, always championing inclusivity in her projects, but Ethan didn't know how she'd react to seeing him in her skirt. The thought of her finding out, of her pulling away, was a constant knot in his stomach. Their relationship was built on late-night talks and study sessions, but it was also a dance of unspoken feelings. Isabella had a knack for pushing Ethan out of his comfort zone, like when she'd convinced him to join a campus improv group, where he'd discovered a knack for making people laugh. But this, trying on her skirt, was a leap he hadn't planned. His only other close connection was his lab partner, Sam, a cheerful guy who knew nothing of Ethan's inner struggles. Boston's academic scene was progressive, but Ethan still feared judgment, especially in a city where rumors could spread faster than a viral tweet. Ethan's phone buzzed on the coffee table, pulling him from his thoughts. A text from Isabella. "Hey, finishing up at the library. Be over in an hour to grab my skirt. You found it, right?" His heart lurched. An hour. Not enough time, but the pull to try on the skirt was too strong to resist. He'd been wrestling with his feelings for Isabella for months, and the skirt felt like a connection to her, a way to understand her world. What would it feel like to wear it, to step into her space, even for a moment? He glanced at the clock, 5:45 p.m., and made a decision. He'd try it on, just for a minute, and change back before she arrived. Build up, 5,000 words. Ethan's fingers trembled as he lifted the black pleated skirt from the closet, its fabric cool and smooth against his skin. The apartment's soft lighting made the skirt gleam, its simple design both inviting and intimidating. He laid it on the bed, next to a pair of tights he'd found in the laundry basket, also Isabella's, forgotten in her rush to leave last weekend. The idea of trying on her clothes felt like crossing a line, but the curiosity was overwhelming, a mix of excitement and fear that made his pulse race. Isabella's text gave him less than an hour, a ticking clock that turned every decision into a gamble. He could stop now, fold the skirt, and wait for her, but the urge to explore this hidden part of himself was too strong. He moved to the bathroom, where a small mirror hung above the sink, reflecting his familiar face, sharp jawline, brown eyes, a faint stubble he hadn't shaved today. He didn't have makeup, but Isabella had left a small cosmetic bag behind, tucked under the sink. He opened it, revealing a tube of mascara, a soft pink lipstick, and a compact of blush. The sight sent a jolt through him, part thrill, part panic. He started with the blush, dusting it lightly on his cheeks, watching his face soften in the mirror. The mascara was trickier, his hands unsteady as he coated his lashes, making his eyes pop with unexpected intensity. The lipstick came last, its creamy texture foreign yet exhilarating. He stared at his reflection, barely recognizing the person looking back. His features were softer, more delicate, as if the makeup had unlocked a hidden version of himself. Back in the bedroom, he slipped off his jeans and t-shirt, feeling exposed in the quiet room. The tights were a challenge, the nylon clinging to his legs as he pulled them on, the sensation both strange and electrifying. The skirt came next, gliding over his hips, its pleats swishing as he moved. He zipped it up, the sound loud in the silence, and felt a rush of adrenaline. The skirt wasn't just clothing. It was a doorway, a chance to be someone else, if only for a moment. He didn't have heels, but he slipped on a pair of Isabella's flats, left by the door, and wobbled slightly as he adjusted to their fit. They were a size too small, but the discomfort was overshadowed by the thrill. He stood in front of the full-length mirror, heart pounding. The person staring back was both stranger and self, a version of Ethan that felt alive in a way he hadn't expected. The skirt hugged his slim frame, the tights accentuated his legs, and the makeup transformed his face into something softer, more expressive. He felt beautiful, vulnerable, and terrified. The clock read 6:15 p.m. Isabella could arrive any minute. The thrill of transformation was now laced with dread. What if she saw him like this? What if she laughed, or worse, pulled away? The thought of losing her friendship, of ruining his chance to confess his feelings, was a knife in his chest. He moved to the living room, flats clicking softly on the hardwood, and put on a playlist of lo-fi music to calm his nerves. The apartment felt alive, its creaks and groans like whispers of encouragement or warning. He swayed to the music, letting the skirt move with him, imagining himself as someone confident, someone who could walk into a room and own it. The fantasy was intoxicating, but it was interrupted by a text notification that made his heart skip. "Wow, you look amazing in that skirt." It was from Isabella. Ethan froze, his phone trembling in his hand. How did she know? Had she seen him through the window? The blinds were half open, a careless mistake. He rushed to close them, his heart hammering, but another text came through. "Didn't know you had it in you." His mind raced. Was she joking? Flirting? Or was this a trap, a test of his loyalty? He typed a quick response. "What are you talking about?" But his fingers shook and he deleted it before sending. He needed to change, to erase the evidence before she arrived, but the pull to stay in this moment was strong. He darted to the bedroom, fumbling with the skirt zipper, but it caught, the fabric snagging in his haste. The tights were harder to remove, clinging to his legs like a second skin. He wiped at his face with a tissue, smearing the lipstick into a pink smudge, the mascara streaking into dark lines. The mirror showed a mess, half Ethan, half someone else caught between two worlds. Another text buzzed. "I'm outside. Can't wait to see you." His stomach dropped. She was here and he was still in her skirt. The front door creaked open and Isabella's voice called out, "Ethan? You in there?" Her tone was playful, but there was an edge to it, a curiosity that made his blood run cold. He grabbed a hoodie from the bed, yanking it over the skirt, but the pleats still peeked out, a traitor to his secret. He kicked off the flats, shoving them under the bed, and stood in front of the mirror, trying to compose himself. His reflection was chaotic, makeup smeared, tights wrinkled, skirt half-hidden. He looked like a half-finished painting, exposed and raw. Isabella appeared in the doorway, her dark curls loose, her hazel eyes scanning the room. "Hey, you okay?" she said, her smile faltering as she took in his disheveled appearance. "What's with the makeup?" Her gaze dropped to the hem of the skirt, and Ethan felt the world tilt. "Is that my skirt?" she asked, her voice a mix of surprise and something else, amusement? Intrigue? I can explain," he stammered, his voice barely audible. But before he could find the words, his phone buzzed again, another text from Isabella. "You're killing it. Want to try the dress next?" His heart stopped. She was standing right in front of him, but the texts kept coming. Was someone else using her phone? Or was this a game? A test of his feelings? He looked at her, confusion and fear warring in his chest, and knew he was running out of time to decide. Confess everything or keep hiding. Ethan's mind spun as he stood frozen in the bedroom, the black skirt a heavy secret beneath the oversized hoodie. Isabella's eyes were locked on him, her brow furrowed with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Ethan, what's going on?" she asked, stepping closer, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "The latest text, you're killing it. Want to try the dress next?" Burned in his hand, sent from her number, but she was right here, not holding her phone. His stomach churned. Was someone pranking him? Had someone seen him through the window and hacked her account? Or was Isabella playing a game, testing him in a way he couldn't understand? "It's your skirt," he said, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. "I found it in the laundry and, I don't know, I just tried it on. I'm sorry." His voice cracked, his face burning with shame. He tugged the hoodie down, trying to hide the skirt, but the movement only drew her attention to the pleats peeking out. Her eyes widened, but there was no judgment in them, only surprise. "Okay," she said slowly, setting her backpack down. "I'm not mad, Ethan. I'm just confused. Why didn't you tell me you were curious about this?" Her tone was gentle, but the question felt like a spotlight, exposing his deepest fears. He'd spent months hiding his feelings for her, and now this, wearing her skirt, felt like a betrayal of their friendship. Before he could answer, the doorbell rang, sharp and jarring. Ethan's heart lurched. "Who's that?" Isabella asked, her tone shifting to suspicion. She moved toward the door, but Ethan grabbed her arm, panic rising. "Don't," he said, his voice urgent. "I'm not. I can't let anyone see me like this." His hands shook as he gestured to the hoodie, the skirt, the smeared makeup. Isabella looked at him, then at the door, hesitating as the bell rang again. "I'll see who it is," she said, pulling away. "Stay here." Ethan's mind raced. What if it was Sam, his lab partner, dropping off notes? Or a neighbor, curious about the noise? Boston apartments were notorious for thin walls, and he'd been careless with the blinds. He bolted to the bathroom, shutting the door behind him, and frantically began to change. The skirt's zipper snagged, the fabric tearing slightly as he yanked it off. The tights caught on his legs, slowing him down, and the makeup smeared further as he scrubbed his face with a wet towel. From the living room, he heard voices, Isabella's and another, unfamiliar. A woman's voice, clipped and professional. "I'm looking for Ethan Cole," the woman said. "I'm with building management. We've had reports of suspicious activity in the complex. Have you noticed anything unusual?" Ethan's blood ran cold. Suspicious activity? His mind flashed to the texts, the open blinds, the moment he'd stood in the living room, swaying in the skirt. Had someone seen him? Was that why Isabella's phone was sending those messages? He glanced at the mirror, where a single flat shoe lay exposed under the sink, glinting in the light. It was a small thing, but it felt like a beacon, a symbol of his vulnerability. Isabella's voice was calm, deflecting. "Nothing unusual here. Just studying. We'll let you know if we see anything." The woman thanked her and left, but Ethan's relief was short-lived. He stepped out of the bathroom, the skirt and tights discarded, his face mostly clean but still flushed. Isabella was waiting, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "Suspicious activity," she said, raising an eyebrow. Care to explain what's going on, Ethan? And what's with the texts you keep looking at? She nodded toward his phone, still clutched in his hand. He swallowed hard, the weight of the moment crushing. I got these texts from your number, he said, showing her the screen. Saying I looked amazing in the skirt, asking if I'd try a dress next. But you were here, not texting. I don't know what's happening. His voice shook, the fear of being watched, exposed, overwhelming him. Isabella's eyes widened as she read the messages. I didn't send these, she said, her voice sharp. Someone's using my number or… I don't know, spoofing it. She grabbed her own phone, checking her sent messages, but found nothing. Ethan, this is creepy. Who could have seen you? His mind raced. The open blinds, the texts, the building management's visit, it was too much coincidence. I don't know, he said, his voice barely a whisper. I was careful, but maybe someone saw me through the window. Or maybe he trailed off, a new fear gripping him. Had someone in the building been watching him, waiting for this moment? He thought of Sam, who'd been overly curious about Ethan's study sessions with Isabella, or the nosy neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Klein, who always seemed to know everyone's business. We need to figure this out, Isabella said, her voice firm. But first, tell me the truth. Why did you try on my skirt? Is this something you've done before? Her eyes searched his, and Ethan felt a surge of defiance, a need to stop hiding. I've never done this before, he admitted, his voice steadying. But when I found your skirt, I don't know, I wanted to know what it felt like. To be someone else, maybe. I've always felt like I'm hiding part of myself, and this felt like a way to explore it. I didn't mean to keep it from you. I'm just scared. Isabella's expression softened, and she stepped closer, touching his arm. You don't have to be scared with me, she said. I like you, Ethan, for who you are. Skirt or no skirt. But we need to deal with these texts. Someone knows something, and it's freaking me out. Before he could respond, a loud crash came from the hallway, like glass shattering. They froze, eyes darting toward the sound. What was that? Isabella whispered, her hand tightening on his arm. Ethan's mind flashed to the open blinds, the mysterious texts, the building management's warning. Had someone been in the apartment? He grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, his heart pounding, and moved toward the hallway, Isabella close behind. The hallway was dark, the light bulb overhead flickering. A small picture frame, one of Ethan's sketches, lay shattered on the floor, its glass scattered like tiny accusations. The window at the end of the hall was open, curtains flapping in the night breeze. Had someone been here? Ethan's phone buzzed again, another text from Isabella's number. You're braver than you think. Keep going. His blood ran cold. Someone was watching, and they were close. He showed the text to Isabella, whose face paled. This isn't me, she said, her voice trembling. We need to call the police. But as she reached for her phone, Ethan noticed something on the floor near the broken frame, a small, folded note in unfamiliar handwriting. You looked beautiful. Don't stop now. The note was unsigned, but it was written on a piece of paper torn from one of his sketchbooks, a personal violation that made his skin crawl. Ethan stood in the hallway, the flashlight trembling in his hand as he stared at the note. You looked beautiful. Don't stop now. The broken frame crunched under his feet, each shard reflecting his fear. Isabella gripped his arm, her eyes darting to the open window where the night air carried a chill. The text from her number. You look amazing in that skirt. You're killing it. Hung between them like a threat. Who was watching? Who had been in his apartment, leaving notes and breaking frames? The apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap, and Ethan was the unwitting prey. We need to call the police, Isabella said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. Someone was here, Ethan. This isn't just about the skirt anymore. She pulled out her phone, but Ethan hesitated, his mind racing. Calling the police meant explaining everything, the skirt, the makeup, the texts. What if they didn't take it seriously? What if they laughed? Or worse, exposed his secret to the entire building? He nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere, caught on the note's cryptic message. Don't stop now. Was this a prank, a stalker, or something more personal? He thought of Sam, who'd been oddly nosy about his time with Isabella, or Mrs. Klein, the neighbor who always seemed to know too much. Had she seen him through the window, mistaken his actions for something suspicious? Or was it someone closer, someone who knew Isabella's number and Ethan's vulnerabilities? "Let's check the apartment first," Ethan said, his voice hoarse. "Make sure no one's still here." He led Isabella back to the bedroom, the flashlight cutting through the darkness. The skirt lay crumpled on the floor, the flats half hidden under the bed, the cosmetic bag open on the vanity. It was a crime scene of his own making, each item a piece of evidence that could unravel his life. Isabella picked up the skirt, holding it gently, as if it were a relic. "You don't have to be ashamed of this," she said softly. "I think it's brave, exploring who you are. I just wish you'd told me." Her words were a balm, but the fear lingered. He wanted to believe her, to trust that she could accept this side of him, but the note and texts were a reminder that someone else was watching, someone who might not be so kind. He checked the closet, the bathroom, under the bed. No one was there, but the open window in the hallway gnawed at him. Had someone climbed in, left the note, and slipped out? He returned to the living room, where another text buzzed. "Look in the sketchbook." Ethan's heart stopped. He grabbed the sketchbook from a coffee table, flipping through its pages of forests and coastlines. Tucked between two drawings was another note, in the same unfamiliar handwriting. "You're becoming her. Keep going." The words sent a chill down his spine. Becoming her? Did it mean Isabella, or the person he'd seen in the mirror, the one in the skirt and makeup? He showed the note to Isabella, who gasped. "Ethan, this is serious. Someone's been in here." Before they could act, a loud knock echoed through the apartment, sharp and urgent. They froze, the sound a jolt to their already frayed nerves. "Ethan Cole," a man's voice called through the door. "This is Officer Daniels. We got a report of a break-in at this address. Open the door." Ethan's blood ran cold. A break-in? The texts, the note, the broken frame. Had someone reported him, mistaken his actions for something criminal? Or was this about the watcher, someone who'd seen too much? He looked at Isabella, her eyes wide with the same questions. The skirt, the flats, the makeup, they were all in the bedroom, exposed. If the officer came in, saw the evidence, Ethan's secret could be out, not just to Isabella, but to the world. "What do we do?" Isabella whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. He didn't know. The sketchbook in his hands felt like a Pandora's box, the note a warning he couldn't ignore. Was he ready to face the consequences of his transformation, to step fully into the person he'd glimpsed in the mirror? Or would he hide, as he always had, and risk losing the chance to understand himself? The officer knocked again, louder, and Ethan knew the moment of truth was here.